That's the majority of the reaction. They're like, oh, you mean to tell me I don't have to have this attachment on the back of my mower that I then have to dump somewhere in the woods?
Okay, welcome to episode 11 of Behind the Turf. We somehow talked Ryan Edwards, our general manager, into jumping back into a podcast. We thought he had some really good insight on this topic as well. We're also joined with Jared Koenig, who's our agronomist and
Glad
expert.
to be back.
Yeah, welcome, guys.
Yeah.
So on this episode, we're going to talk about, should I bag my lawn clippings? So the first thing I thought we would do is go ahead and be honest, like who's bagging their clippings? Because this isn't a big extra step.
Yeah. It is a task to take on. One time I scouted my yard beginning of the season, and it was a doozy.
Justin's got all this. Justin Dodona, who's fantastic, by the way. If you called in for sales, or even in the past, if you've called in for support, he's got like pictures of bagging that yard when he scalps in the springtime too. And man alive, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I would say I might do it once a year at the beginning. You know, that first when you're really trying to bring it down after the winter.
Too long didn't read. That's the only time you should bag your clippings.
But not really, maybe one time a year. I'm not a bagger.
Yeah.
But tell us, should we be bagging our lawn clippings? The straight, just yes or no to start off.
No.
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 Yeah. But why?
All right. How deep do you want to get this early? I mean, we said, what was there 12 hours of runtime, I think, on there? I'm looking at the producer in the background.
We got a long day ahead of us.
Let's go. All right. No, the short version of it is, in a general weekly mowing, you really shouldn't, because when you let those clippings fall, they are returning nutrition to the ground. If you've ever done a soil test anywhere, UGA or a third-party lab, something like that, all of those recommendations will always say, hey, this is what you should be putting down to sort of make up for any deficiency that you may have. And they'll tell you to increase that number by as much as 30% if you are bagging clippings.
So, Ryan, you might disagree, but I feel like often when people have called the office in the past, because you've done customer support over over a decade being here, they often think they need to do it to avoid thatch.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Maybe there's other reasons I'm not thinking of, but I think that's one of the more common reasons they're real worried about getting too much thatch from over abundance of clippings.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main concerns is they're putting too much back down on the soil surface. But really, if you're following the proper mowing guidelines, mowing at least once a week, you shouldn't be removing that much of the turf grass. What's 1/3 of the blade height you want to remove?
Exactly, yeah, so 1/3.
If you're removing that, there shouldn't be much thatch contribution to the lawn itself.
And you're only removing leaf tissue when you're doing that. When I say that, I mean the grass blade itself, not the stems and anything. And the leaf blades themselves are so soft that they degrade very quickly. They don't actually contribute to a thatch accumulation.
So do you feel like people overall are receptive to this when the team, you're working with our team to then explain it to our clients? Like, they're receptive to not bagging. Obviously, if they've ever bagged, then they know how much extra work it is. But for those that really believe that bagging is critical in having a nice lawn.
Yep. Most of the time, people are relieved to find out they don't have to anymore. I will say that that's the majority of the reaction. They're like, oh, you mean to tell me I don't have to have this attachment on the back of my mower that I then have to dump somewhere in the woods? Every once in a while, we will find somebody that's really, really into it, and they've always bagged, and they're very sort of apprehensive to cease that. But in general, people are pretty happy to find out that they don't. Really, the only reason, sometimes I think too, people will say, oh, well, I live on a golf course and I see them when they mow the greens and stuff, they use their catchments or their tees and stuff. But pay more attention to what they do in the rough, because the rough on a golf course is way more similar to a home lawn than those really, really short areas, fairways, things like that. Even fairways generally aren't caught, by the way. They let those clippings fall as well. But really, really shortcut, very specific applications people will bag, or they have catchments on the baskets on the front of those mowers. But on a home lawn, it's really beneficial to let that nutrition, degrade and contribute again. And it's also good for the soil health and the microbial activity as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you told me to take a step out of doing the dishes, I'd be much obliged. So anytime you can take something out.
You mean to tell me I didn't have to scrub it before I put it in the dishwasher?
Exactly. So if you could take one little thing off my table, that'd be great.
That's a great way to look at it, right? If you don't have to rinse the plates before you in the dishwasher, it does make it easier, right?
Exactly.
That was good. I like that.
Yeah.
Guys, there are, we mentioned already one, but like there's reasons why you should bag.
Yeah.
There is a couple of like specific reasons or scenarios. Even if you're mowing every 7 days, why you should bag. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about those?
Yeah. Well, Ryan mentioned, scalping at the beginning of a season, or in the case of zoysia, maybe a pretty significant height reset. In those situations, you do want to bag, so you're not putting a whole bunch of stuff down that could accumulate, potentially mat, sort of make it hard for the grass to grow through it. Sometimes people like to do mid-season height resets too. It happens. In those instances, you would want to as well, but just regular mowing, to Ryan's point, if you're only removing a third of that plant material. Let it fall.
If you're lopping a lot off the top, I mean, you don't want it to.
You're getting into those stems, yeah.
So.
And Ryan, I'm sure you remember this from on the support days as well. Like summer's the worst time because we get calls where people go on vacation for 7 to 14 days or something like that. Even we've had them say they've gone to Europe for 30 days.
Yeah.
And they're like, I came back and I just mowed my yard. Or they'll say, my yard looks terrible. And you're like, oh my gosh, can you send us some pictures? And what's happened? They've got
calf height turf.
Yeah. They've gone out there the same height that they had 30 days ago. And they've not only scalped the yard down, but they've got clippings piled throughout the lawn, just big piles. And I mean, Jared, that can really cause some real problems there. That's the situation where we need to be back. Even 7 days. I know I said 30, but 7 days. If you've gone on vacation, you've skipped, a week of mowing, it's very well you should bag if we've had a lot of rainfall in the summer and you've seen a lot of growth.
Yeah, certainly that's a solution, especially if you're going to accept the fact that you're going to get some mower injury out of it too. There's a couple other solutions to that. Start it high and mow at a high frequency for a while and kind of, get the height whittled back down over some tighter, 3 to 5 day, intervals instead of 7 day intervals.
That's
kind
a
of thing.
solution I like to lean on is if your turf has gotten out of hand, rather than going scorched earth on it, try to just back it down gradually. Have to tighten that mowing window a little bit over the next few weeks, but get it back down gradually, and it shouldn't be too much of an issue if you do that.
Yep.
And I think the only one we haven't talked about is fall cleanup. It's when those heavy
bag them leaves.
Yeah, definitely don't want to just run the mower over a heavily. Leaves all over the lawn, I guess.
I think in that instance, though, it's important to note that you don't actually, if you're doing this in the fall and you're going to bag, it's to get rid of the debris. It's to get rid of the leaves that have fallen out of the deciduous trees and stuff like that. But you want to leave that canopy of that turf grass up. That's not the time of year to be reduced in size. That's not the time to bag because you're cutting a bunch of turf off. You want that canopy to stay, but it's a great opportunity to utilize the tools at your disposal instead of just going out there and blowing all the while. You can certainly, across large expanses, use a mower that's got a catchment.
Okay, seems like we went over, roughly 4 ideas that are common when it comes to bagging. So it's height reduction, scalping, fall cleanup, and then when you've skipped a mowing, is there any other ones you guys can think of? Because I think those are, to me, the primary ones I think of when, yes, you would want bag, but otherwise it's really not necessary.
Right. Yeah. I'd say in a home lawn, it's best to let them fall. Take advantage of it. It's good for the dirt. It's good for the grass.
Yeah.
Great. Well, if you guys don't have anything else, we'll wrap up episode 11. We really appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, we're here to answer your questions. Please reach out to us.